New episode, Sprint Right Option Podcast. We are live, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. My name is Andrew Pasquini. To my right is Jason A Ponte Auto Parts. Ow! That's the best my brain came up with. I apologize for the audio listeners for that ow that probably spiked, and I apologize. Jason, how was your weekend? Dude, listen, I was busy at work. That's the best my brain can come up with today.
That wasn't bad. I mean, in all things considered, I would have never been able to come up with something that quickly.
You know, got to do what I got to do. You know, your name is really easy because it starts with the A, and there's just so many places I can go. Thank you, Jordan, for the 7 out of 10.
Out of 10. That's fair. That's fair.
That's a fair grade. So we're gonna dive in because Jason and I, we've spent today talking about what we're gonna talk about on our podcast, and then in the last hour, two things have happened that loosely relate to the 49ers to a point where I feel like we should touch on them. So we're gonna spend approximately 2 or 3 minutes. Literally 2 or 3 minutes on the news that just happened. The first bit, and probably the biggest news of the day, unless Russell Wilson shockingly gets traded by midnight tonight, Dak Prescott, he gets his extension with the Dallas Cowboys. He signed for 4 years for a lot of money. A lot of money. And that loosely relates to the Niners. I don't think he was ever going to hit the open market, but if he did hit the open market, that's a name that probably would have been added to the list of every quarterback who's ever played in the NFL that the Niners are tied to. So there's that. Jason, do you want to give your 2-minute thought on Dak Prescott getting his money that he's deserved?
Congrats, Dak. And, enjoy and, take the league for everything that it's worth and make as much money as you can, young man. I'm happy for you, man. Just lend me a few, my stimmy's not in yet. Can you send me some money real quick? Like, I promise I'll pay you back when the stimmy hits.
Could you imagine if the stimmy, like something happened and like it just dropped $74 million just for 1 year? That hurts my head. And I just wish my bank account had that accessibility. Like, and a thing that should be talked about is Jerry Jones giving this contract. It tells me that he's expecting a pretty big spike in the salary cap in a couple years. He definitely has an inside track to information. He knows what the money is going to be with this new TV deal that's coming up. So that's something to take, I think, right? That's something.
Yeah, I mean, eventually the money's going to go back up, right? But at the same time, hey, look, again, I'm always going to be pro player. So get your bag, man. And the thing is, all right, so let's tie it to the Niners. I never really thought that they would ever be in the market, for him, because there wouldn't be a market. Dallas would have been foolish to not tag him at least even. And if he doesn't play, then that's a whole other thing. But he was never realistically going to make his way over here. So I don't know if your heart's broken over this. I'm not certain why, but hey, I get it. I like Dak. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, the only reason this we talk about it is if he did hit the open market, he was a quarterback that the Niners would have been interested in. As I said, I don't think he was ever going to hit the open market. So it's just he's a quarterback that's no longer quote unquote available. That's pretty much it.
Here's a good question from Cool Nice Man. How much is his contract in McChickens?
I mean, I would assume it'd be 75 million McChickens because isn't that on the dollar menu?
It is, but certain places and at certain times it's a little bit more, and I'm upset that I know that.
You're doing too much math for me now, and that's the answer. That's the answer I'm giving. It's how many ever dollars his contract was worth. The other news that loosely ties to the 49ers is the Miami Dolphins made a trade for Isaiah Wilson, the first-round pick for the Titans last year. And the only reason that ties to the Niners is the hot rumors on the street was the Dolphins were looking at Penei Sewell at number 3. I feel like it's a bit of a reach to go receiver at 3, but who knows, that might be what they do. But if they decide that Isaiah Wilson is their tackle, they could be looking to trade back. That's a situation for the 49ers to trade into the top 3 to get a quarterback or continue my conspiracy theory of Penei Sewell to the 49ers. I don't know, but really the only reason it loosely ties to the 49ers is it's a chance to trade up if Miami chooses to go that route.
See, and that's the thing. I think that there's ties between the player and Flores, right? I think they went to the same school. So like he's looking to tap into that. And Wilson was drafted in the first round. I think that's his name, right? Isaiah Wilson?
Isaiah Wilson, yes.
Yeah. He was drafted in the first round. The talent's there. He'll be there to compete. They have tackles, so it is a good thought. Like the team that you can think of that would be taking Penei Sewell if Miami doesn't at 3, it would be the Bengals probably. And as much as I think the Miami Dolphins are coveting a wide receiver, which I think they are, I don't think that they're going to go receiver at 3. So it is interesting that you brought it up because now you have, a few players that can fill that role now. And you know what? Maybe you trade back. Maybe you get Jamar Chase. Maybe you get a receiver that you really like to add on, and you still, address the position too. So it's just another scenario to throw out there. But this one actually feels more realistic just from a straight roster construction and the way that roster construction point of view and the way that you should be thinking about smart roster building, which Miami has done a ton.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's something to consider too is I really like this receiver class. I feel like it's up there with last year's receiver class. So people could say, hey, what quality receiver is going to be there at 12? Well, it could be a situation where last year, like with the Cowboys, right? The Cowboys wanted a receiver. They let everybody else make their pick, and they just took who was there. It could be that type of situation where the Dolphins really like all 3 top receivers, and maybe Jamar Chase goes at 5 and, Devonta Smith goes at 8 or whatever. And I don't know who's picking there off the top of my head, so don't yell at me. And the Dolphins are okay with whoever's left at 12 in a world where the Niners trade up. So yeah, this is something, I don't think it's something that we're 100%, thinking about yet, but it's just a conversation point to have, I guess, is the 3. The third pick in the draft could be more available than it was about an hour and a half ago. That's really what it is here.
Right. And I've always contended that if the 49ers wanted to get a shot at Justin Fields, you had to get to 3. You can't let it get to Atlanta. No. Like you just can't. And that's always been what I've thought. So, I mean, look, will they do it? I don't know. But I always thought that 3 was a sweet spot if they wanted to make sure that they got one of those guys. And now, that really seems like you have a chance of doing that, based on Miami's team needs at this point.
Yeah, so there's the 2 bits of news that, as I said, loosely relate to the 49ers. We're opening up the show with it just because it just happened. Like everything happened within the past hour and a half. We will now get to the regularly scheduled program. And I'm going to start with Trent Williams just because there's really nothing concrete in terms of that. It's something to talk about, though, because the closer we get to free agency, the less likely it is he's coming back. Because, as I said, if he hits that open market, teams are going to overpay him. That's just what it is. And we're getting closer to free agency. I think I feel like we've bounced back and forth on free agency day, and I believe it's March 17th.
I thought it was the 10th.
Is it? Oh, man, we should utilize Google. I know the 10th. I know the 10th is the day that everybody's saying like all these cuts can happen. I don't know. According to the NFL.com, it says free agency starts March 17th. NFL free agency officially begins alongside the arrival of the new league year at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, March 17th. So that's when free agency starts, but I think a lot of things happen before then, which is why everybody says the 10th is the day to look forward to. It gives the teams, a week to prepare. So I guess this will be the question up until he finally signs with a team. How do you feel about Trent Williams?
I'm scared to death. Mm-hmm. When you think about it and you start to look at who has money and things like that and who values what on their roster, right? It feels like the culture just there ready to make their move. Don't let it get to there because if Trent wants to compete for a championship, he fully well can there. They have a great defense and that will easily go from the best line in the league to the ultra best line in the league. Like it almost is a luxury pick, but goodness gracious, it's not. And tackle such a premium position that if Indianapolis doesn't give them the money, someone else will. I just feel like Indianapolis is too much of a team that you can't ignore based on what Trent wants, which is he wants a chance to compete and win. And 2, who has the money to do it. And the Colts are right there to do that right now. Yeah. And they scare the hell out of me right now.
Yeah, and a lot of people. So here's my thing too: is a lot of people seem to be at the thought of, well, okay, if they lose Trent Williams, Orlando Brown's available for trade, and I get that theory. I understand Orlando Brown is very good. He's very, very good. My issue with that is the 49ers are an offensive line that really struggled with the passing attack last year. I think that's safe to say. They weren't very good at pass blocking. Orlando Brown is great, but he's a downgrade from Trent Williams. The 49ers are not at any position to be able to downgrade at any spot on the offensive line. And as good as Orlando Brown is going to be, possibly with the Niners or whatever his new team is, I don't feel comfortable stepping down from Trent Williams. And that's what it is. Why would you be a team that would be okay with downgrading from the number one player at a position? That's what it is to me. Left tackle is still, I know edge rushers gotten more popular over the past couple of years. Quarterback's obviously the number one position. Why would you be comfortable downgrading at a position so important like left tackle? And that's my take on it. For me, it's Trent Williams or bust. That's what it is for me.
Take it a step further. Imagine trading draft capital for somebody that you thought was going to be here forever. You swing and miss in a year, and now he's gone. It's a total fail. You have to bring him back whether it makes sense or not, because you wasted a pick trading him, and you get nothing when he leaves. An absolute swing and miss. That's it. And the problem is that this front office has not shown that they will get into any sort of bidding war at all. So whoever gives more money, God bless you and go get your money. But to think about the way this all played out, you lose Joe Staley, you trade a third, you think you're replacing him with the guy who's going to be there forever, you take out the franchise tag in his language just so you can sign a good faith, and guess what? Boom, out the door first chance he gets, complete, utter swing and miss and a fail. Absolute.
Yeah, and we still have 9 days before he hits the open market, and maybe they'll surprise us. But right now, it just seems very worrisome at this point. That's really what it is, right? It's hard to downgrade at the position. And you got to remember, too, this is likely Trent Williams' last chance at a big contract. If he hits that open market, why would you miss that chance to get that big money that he wanted, especially with everything that happened with Washington, him coming over to San Francisco? It's obvious that he wants to get this big contract because he put in his contract, you're not going to franchise tag me. It's a situation that I wish I had the optimism of some people on Twitter, because there is still some optimism out there thinking, hey, it was always going to take a while. It was always going to take to the last minute, which, fine, that could be true. But boy, oh boy, is it stressful. It's not fun to think about right now, the 49ers without Trent Williams. And like I kind of said, I don't know how developed of a take this is, but if Trent Williams is gone, right, and the Dolphins do decide to trade back at 3 and the Niners are that team, at what point do we consider maybe it's to trade up and get Sewell, Penei Sewell at 3? I know obviously a quarterback's a huge need, or quote unquote need right now, but that puts that on the table too, because it's a very slippery slope. Let's just say that, because if Trent Williams is gone, left tackle instantly becomes the number one need on this team.
Yeah, that can open up some interesting scenarios with Slater and things like that. But I see Vince is talking about it's the same situation with Emmanuel Sanders. The only difference is that the 49ers actually recouped the pick when Emmanuel Sanders left. The problem is that because because Trent has 10 years of accrued seasons, you get no pick. You lose your pick that you sent them, and you get no pick compensatory. It's a complete and utter disaster, honestly, from if it doesn't get done. And yeah, maybe it opens up for Slater. Maybe it opens up for somebody else. Yes. But again, this fan base isn't gonna like, doing the right thing roster construction wise, whether that's defensive line or addressing offensive line, right? They're just not gonna like that. It seems like so many are dead set on just like, if you don't draft a quarterback in the first round, we riot.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily the right idea. I get I get the idea of really wanting a quarterback, but as I said, there are worse situations to have than Jimmy Garoppolo. And then the other reason too, Vince, that I think it's a little different than the Emmanuel Sanders situation, and maybe this is my baseball mind taking over more, is I think there's a difference between offseason trades and trade deadline trades. The Emmanuel Sanders move was to try and take that next step to become a Super Bowl caliber team in 2019. That wasn't a move where they were necessarily thinking about the future. That was a move of like, hey, we need to be good for the next 10 weeks. What can we do to take that step? And Emmanuel Sanders was the option. Where if you're trading for a Trent Williams in the offseason, to me, that's not a rental trade. That's a trade of a guy that you're thinking, hey, we're going to try and lock him up and bring him back. So that's why it's a different scenario to me. Is Emmanuel Sanders A-okay with him being a rental? That's okay. Trent Williams, not so much.
Right. That's not a rental. That's you moving from one cornerstone left tackle to another. And look, and I'm not going to fault the thought process then. That would be wrong of me to go back and say, they did the wrong thing. They did the absolute right thing. They played it close to the chest and think about what they sent, the third. But you have to continue all of those plans and get it done for it to be a fully realized plan. Otherwise, it was just a half-baked idea that you didn't really know what was going to happen. And that really, it really boils down to that at the end of the day. And it's just like, man, when you really think about the draft capital sent, what you were planning, and to not have him back at all, it's bad. It's damning. It really is.
Yeah, and then actually, JD on the side there, he just said it. I was going to bring it up. Literally just came across JP Finlay of NBC Sports Washington. Sources tell me the Washington football team will use the franchise tag on right guard Brandon Sheriff. Another like loose tied to the 49ers. The Niners absolutely could use a right guard. That's to me a very important position as well, especially with how much they run the ball. Sheriff probably would have been a guy you could look at and see if you can bring him in. He's not going to hit free agency, so that takes another name off the table for the 49ers. So I guess we could put the Trent Williams for today to rest. We'll probably talk about it on Friday, because every second that ticks off this clock, it seems less and less likely it's something that probably needs, because Jason, we are getting to a point where you and we have been excited to get to this point. Speculation is now going to be turning into matter of fact. And that's a big point of why we talked about the 2019 Saints game on Friday. Is it was really our last chance to have a fun episode before we really got serious again.
Yeah, not that this isn't fun. It's just more stressful.
It's more stress. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. We wanted an episode where we could have pure fun. But yeah, we are getting to a point where everything's going to start being matter of fact. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of cuts coming up in the next couple of days. That March 10th date, I don't know what the significance is of March 10th. I can't find anything, but a lot of people are saying watch out for that March 10th date. So things are going to start getting very, very real. Let's shift to another 49er free agent. Jason Verrett, he seems to be ready to test free agency, which not the worst thing. Like, obviously, like, he's a guy that, he's just like Trent Williams, right? He hasn't been in the league that long. Like, he's been nowhere near in the length of the league of Trent Williams, but he's a guy that the 49ers are going to monitor closely. Him testing free agency doesn't mean he's gone. He's not gone. He's going to see what's out there. Something you touched on too. Listen, if they lose Jason Verrett, it just makes bringing back Ahkello Witherspoon that much more important. The 49ers currently don't have very many defensive backs on their team. Did they bring back Mosley? Is that what I read yesterday? Or is he one of the guys that don't have a tendered contract?
No, he doesn't just yet, but okay. I think it's the worst kept secret that Mosley will be back right away. Okay. This is my concern right now. Jason Verrett leaves. Okay. What you thought was a luxury with Ahkello Witherspoon, right? Maybe bringing him back and adding him now becomes more of a necessity. But here's the question that I'll pose to you. Why would he want to come back here?
Verrett or Witherspoon?
Spoon.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've seen too. He's just kind of been he's the fallback option, right? He's been the fallback option for the 49ers for the past couple of years. He's a guy that's shown promise, but he hasn't gotten that consistent playing time. It feels like he has the shortest leash of all the cornerbacks for whatever reason it may be. I know a lot of the things, might be on him. I mean, the biggest thing to me, and I don't want to say everything's on him because it's not. The biggest one to me is that Dolphins game where he was hurt, but he wasn't. And that was a very weird situation. I would love Ahkello Witherspoon to come back. I think he has more promise than what he's shown. I think he's primed for another step. I don't know if he would want to come back at this point. He really hasn't been treated the best at this point. But it could be a totally different scenario if Jason Verrett leaves and K'Wan Williams leaves. Richard Sherman's already gone, and he's the only guy in the room. So that's another situation to keep an eye on. But Jason Verrett as well, that's a situation. Him testing free agency, as I said, doesn't necessarily mean he's gone.
But it's not good.
It's not good.
That's not good. I don't like that at all. Again, get your bag. I will not be mad at him at all, especially considering what he went through. Go get paid. If someone's going to pay you, go get paid. I'm going to talk about what the 49ers would have to do if he's gone, right? So he's gone. Emmanuel Mosley is your only real starting center. I know Tim Harris is on the roster, somewhere. I know that there's, Webster on there as well, too. But it's really just Mosley. At this point, now you have to really try to work your charm to bring Spoon back. I don't know why he would. I don't know why he wouldn't go back and go see Joe Woods in Cleveland. I don't know why he wouldn't go a multitude of places that would probably try to tap into what he has, right? And here's the thing about what you brought up. He makes one mistake, he's pulled from the game. Guys make 4 and 5 mistakes and they stick around. Like, look, I love Coach, man, but he picks and chooses who he wants to put in the doghouse, man. And let's just be matter of fact about it. And it has nothing to do with the way the Spoon prepares, because all indications that we get from anybody that we talk to close to the team is that, 1, Spoon comes and he works his ass off while he's there, and 2, he's the most talented guy on the team, right? The problem has never been talent. It's always just been the stuff in the middle of that, right? When he's playing with confidence like he was at the last 4 games of the year, and I will say that I think that he made a breakthrough. We talked about this right when it happened. I think he made a breakthrough mentally when he gets out of the doghouse and plays well. Like, people get out of the doghouse and then they're still shattered. Keller Weatherspoon played with some confidence, man, and that's what I really think. So why would he go back to a place where as soon as he makes one mistake, he's out, but there's guys who drop 4 and 5 passes in a game or in 2 weeks that continue to get run out there? It's like, man, if you're going to be like that with everybody, Coach, be like that with everybody. Don't pick and choose who you want to put in the doghouse, because you're doing some guys a disservice. Some guys don't, look, Coach isn't perfect. And this is one of the things that I disagree with him on.
Yeah. And I had a thought and I just totally lost it. So that's good podcasting. I've always been big on whether it's going to come back. I promise. Yeah. It just came back. Look at that. The 49ers are very lucky that there's so much action at the quarterback position this offseason, and they can be tied. They're probably happy that they're tied to all these quarterback names, because there are way more pressing needs than quarterback for this team. Cornerback and left tackle are 2 of them, I think. And nobody's really talking about that, at least nationally. I know it's a topic that 49er Twitter brings up a lot. Nationally, everybody's talking about the quarterback position, when realistically they need to address left tackle and cornerback. Like that's what it is. And I'm sure the 49ers are probably happy about that right now, because if any team, could you imagine if a New York team had traded for Trent Williams and were put in this situation where he might not come back after a trade? That would lead NFL Network's daily show every day until Trent Williams either re-signed with a New York team or was signed by a different team. So it's things like that. Like, I'm sure the Niners are happy that the quarterback talk is what it is. And that might be wild speculation by me, but there are huge needs this team needs to fill out before they figure out the quarterback situation. And that's why the Jason Verrett situation is one to monitor, and the Trent Williams is obviously one to monitor. It's things that are flying under the radar because everybody's talking about the quarterback position.
And literally the 1 and 2 priorities that I laid out in the offseason, not just me, pretty much everybody, there were 1 and 2, right? Bring him back. And it's just like, man, as the clock ticks, it looks more and more like they'll be going. Look, at least with the Jason Verrett thing, I could understand the other side of the argument, even though I don't agree with it. Like, hey, was last year the exception or was it the rule? In terms of health, because even when he was quote unquote healthy, he never really played 16 games, right? So was last year a mirage, or is that the norm? And, I could understand that argument a little bit. With Trent, it's a no brainer. You're getting top 1 at the position. You're not, this isn't a guy if he plays, even though he's missed games, when he's on the field, he's still the best. Like that's the difference. So if Verrett leaves, you really got to start to explore these free agent options, right? AJ Boye is somebody who I've laid out there. Desmond King is somebody who people would want to play in the slot, can kick return and things like that. Not the same guy from the Chargers, but definitely somebody that's been floated out there. There's a few people, that can be brought in. I know the 49ers brought in Mark Fields from Clemson, fast guy. Maybe they'll do something with that as well too. But, it just, again, you didn't want to go into this this first part of the offseason thinking that you're going to lose both those guys. It's a tough pill to swallow right now too. So
and for me, I'm very much okay with Jason Verrett hitting the open market way more than Trent Williams, because if we're talking about, hey, was last year what he is, or is that, just a little bit of a mirage? We don't know what he is. There's definitely 31 other teams thinking that there might not be as hot of a market for Jason Verrett. No, there's definitely not going to be as hot as a market for Jason Verrett as there is a Trent Williams, where it's fully likely Jason Verrett walks into free agency, doesn't get what he thinks he's worth, and comes back to the Niners on another 1-year deal to prove it, or just things like that. There's a lot of variables with the Jason Verrett, where Trent Williams is the number 1 left tackle in the NFL. He is going to be thrown money, a lot of money, and if he hits the market, it's likely he's not coming back. Jason Verrett, if he hits the market, that doesn't mean he's not coming back.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it. Trent Williams is going to get the bag, and then, people are going to be leery about Verrett, especially in a year where every single team is going to have to be selective. You're going to see some cuts this week that you're going to say, how on earth is this guy not on the team? Well, everybody's got to get under that number, and this is going to be an insane offseason, the most insane offseason we've ever seen, where there's going to be so many available players where you're just like, how are they available to just be picked up? It's just going to be the business side while these people try to crunch these numbers and get under, man. It's really, really going to be interesting.
Can I ask a question? And this is kind of off topic. Okay, well then we'll go to the next
I just
thing.
said, you can.
No, I knew you were messing with me.
Yeah.
I've seen things about Danielle Hunter being available for trade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a possible solution to the edge? He's likely going to want a massive contract wherever he goes, so probably instantly rules him out. But that could be a way to fix edge, which is another position need the 49ers haven't really been talked about needing, but that's another need that I would put up there as well.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of needs. Corner, tackle, you just said edge rusher, interior O-line, there's a lot. There is a lot. I've seen certain names get floated out there as far as free agent people. I've floated the name. Carl Lawson's been out there, people like that. But I like Ryan Kerrigan. You can bring him in. You can bring him in for nothing, right? And have him, he understands Kyle and all those things. Remember, once you play 1 year with Kyle, you're like on a come and go basis. Once you've been there, like if the water boy comes in and out because he played with him, in Washington, and this guy was the third string guy in Houston. Bring him in, we'll bring him in. And he's gonna play. So I could see Ryan Kerrigan being somebody cost friendly, because Kerry Hyder might get the bag. It's just going to be really interesting. I think that a lot of the things that we're doing about speculating without the number, the actual cap number too, is a little off, right? So let's just I think. And I think that people don't understand that when you see, Albert Breer reported today that there's $28 million in the 49ers cap right now, with all those likely to be earned incentives coming back, and all those things. But $28 million doesn't mean that if you give Trent Williams $20 million, that means boom, it's $8 million that you're left with. It is a lot. So there's different ways to navigate that. You kind of hope that maybe Trent wants to stay with Kyle, wants to stay over there because he has ties there. And, they find a way to backload his contract, because the salary cap will rise when, things get to normal and all those TV deals finally hit. So it's good to talk about, but it's really at this point kind of, I think it is reckless. I think at this point to talk about, what money is to be allocated where when we don't even know the number. And and I'm not certain on how salary cap actually works because, Patrick Mahomes gets all this money and all these guys get all this money and they just keep everybody together and just, I don't know, man, so.
Yeah. And me asking about Danielle Hunter, it's just more of a curious. I know the mock trade, whatever you want to call it, falls short when we talk about Danielle Hunter's going to want a contract extension and the 49ers probably don't have that cap space to do so. Then again, at the same time, like the Chiefs have like $7 in salary cap space last offseason and somehow extended Mahomes and Kelsey. So there's ways to work around it. Just kind of, I don't know. As I said, speculation sometimes fun, especially with a player like Danielle Hunter. I haven't said this sentence in a very long time, and I feel bad. So this is my personal apology. We're about to talk about the last thing we were planning to talk about. If you guys have any questions you want us to answer, Drop them now. We'll take them after we talk about this next segment or next whatever. It's not a segment, but this next thing we're going to talk about. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat now. We will get to those here in a couple minutes. Jason, do you want to talk about some tweets?
Sure.
Specifically tweets from Chris Sims, who I don't know if you've heard is really good friends with Kyle Shanahan. And a lot of 49er fans like to take what he says as Kyle Shanahan maybe saying it. I don't think we can necessarily do that every time, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Earlier this morning, Chris Sims tweeted 3 options I see for the 49ers to upgrade the quarterback position. 1, sign a better backup for Jimmy G. No more suffering and blowing winnable games if he's out. 2, draft their new guy. I see 6 guys with first-round talent. And 3, trade for Sam Darnold. Jason, can you tell me why this tweet means anything? Because I feel like I've seen different people say literally this for the past 2 months. Mm-hmm. Why did this create such a kermumpet? I don't even think that's a word, but that's the word. Why did this create a kermumpet in 49ers Twitter today?
Because Chris Sims is cool with Kyle. Chris Sims has a good track record of evaluating quarterbacks, and we're grasping at straws at this point. Let's, because I laid it out in 3 tweets. Let's do it. So the first portion of the tweet said, read it to me again, and I'll give you my answer.
Sign a better backup for Jimmy G. No more suffering and blowing winnable games if he's out.
Fitzpatrick, if he's not retired, and we've gotten that news. That's my backup. Go to number 2.
Draft their new guy. I see 6 guys with first-round talents.
Trade up and go get Justin Fields. Good God, please. Keep going.
3, trade for Sam Darnold.
No. Stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. Official word.
The funny thing is like 3 is just a fancy way of saying 1, because if you trade for Sam Darnold, you're still going to need a good backup, not because of injury reason, but because of what if Sam Darnold is actually what he is. What if he is what he is with New York?
That's my thing, right? So look, I try to be down the middle, and I try to see both sides of the argument, right? The only way to really be good at understanding arguments is to understand both sides. So I get it. 24 years old, Adam Gase, dazzling throws. For every 1 good Sam Darnold throw, there's 5 awful, what were you looking at? Good God, what was that throw? And that's not Adam Gase's fault at all. Adam Gase doesn't make decisions. That's the one thing that I want to make sure that people are clear on. If you're going to diss Adam Gase, diss him because he doesn't know how to handle a roster. He can't play call at all. He doesn't know how to fit people in personnel-wise, right? If you want to yell about that, you can. But there's nothing that Adam Gase has done that has made Sam Darnold in his 3rd, 4th year to be looking that bad still. Sure, did he not develop in? Yep. But at the same time, for every 1 dazzling throw, I can go on film and pick you 5, 6 throws that are just the worst thing you've ever seen ever. The one clip that everybody's been floating around. It's so funny to me on Twitter. The one clip of the Colts game where he's running around and he makes a throw to Braxton Berrios, and everybody's like, "You see that throw? Did you know that was the only touchdown they scored in that game? He threw a pick 6 in that game. He was awful. I don't understand how one play in that game makes me think, okay, let's throw out what he did in that game because of that one throw." Dude, they scored 6 points. 6 points or 7 points, and that was it. He looked awful in that Colts game. It was so bad.
And we could easily do the same thing. Like, we literally just talked about the Saints 49ers game, the pass Garoppolo makes to Kendrick Bourne. We could use that same argument of like, look at this one play. Like, he's the guy. I understand the film people, but it's very much a pick and choose what you want to see thing too, right? Like it's within the eye of the beholder sort of thing. Something I want to talk about with Chris Sims too, with his friendship with Kyle Shanahan, is it goes so far, right? Chris Sims had his tweet from a couple, this was last week with his quarterback rankings, where he had Wilson at 1, Lawrence at 2, Mac Jones at 3, Kellen Mond at 4, Justin Fields at 5, Trey Lance at 6. And a lot of people were saying, hey, this is him trying to tank the value of Fields to maybe try and get him to drop to 12. That's not what this is to me, because Chris Sims is a football analyst. He is a guy
that wants to be a GM.
Yeah, this is a guy that people are going to go to for his opinion on quarterback. He's not going to risk his, what's the word?
Reputation.
I was going to say reputability, and I don't think that's a word. I'm creating words today, Jason.
Andrew,
he's not going to tank his reputation on Kellen Mond being better in the NFL than Justin Fields. Literally the only human being who has said that, to get Justin Fields to drop to Kyle Shanahan because they're friends. I'm sure Chris Sims likes his job as an analyst better than his friendship with Kyle Shanahan, because the analyst job pays him money. His friendship with Kyle Shanahan doesn't. He's not going to have that hot of a take just to help Kyle Shanahan. That is something he probably believes.
And he's been very clear about the fact that, yes, me and Kyle are cool because we don't talk about what his board is at all. Whether that's true or not, he's been out front saying that, because anybody could put those things together. I mean, the man has coach's initials on him. One day I hope to get Andrew's initials on me too, so you guys can know it's real, as far as best friends go.
You don't already, that's what I did this way. I got JA on mine.
And Andrew, let's take this question real quick.
Let's take questions. So there's a Chris Sims questions. I'll read them, Jason, since I'm
go for it
already. The Ag Fox 1971 asks, do you guys believe New England is actually interested in Jimmy Garoppolo? I'm assuming JG stands for Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe it's Jimmy Graham. I don't know. I'm assuming Jimmy Garoppolo, or is that just a BS rumor? I don't know what bologna sandwich rumor. Your best guesses, Jason. I'll let you start.
I think they are. Here's the thing, right? Because all right, I don't live close enough to Massachusetts to know for sure, but I'll tell you this. There is a large portion of the Patriots fan base that really, really believes that Jimmy Garoppolo was the one that should have stayed and Tom Brady should have been moved, and they would be continuing to move in the same direction. Like, there is a legit, that's not even me being funny at all. And I'm not even trying to make that as a joke or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Seriously, the Patriots fan base, they want him back. Now, does that mean that Bill wants him back? You start to point to, when you hear Jimmy Garoppolo talk about both coaches that he's been under, he calls Bill Belichick coach. He calls Kyle Shanahan Kyle. So he would want them. I think Bill does. I think just Bill wants him at the right price. And I think that he took a second for Jimmy, and that looks like it was the right move, because I'm not certain that you can get a second right now for him, probably a third or something like that. But I think it's true. I do think it's true. There's a lot of tapped-in people in New England who keep talking about it. And like I said, the chatter grows around the team, because I do know Patriots fans, and I know for a fact that there's a large portion of them that definitely believe that Tom Brady was the one that should have left. That's why the Steve Young and Joe Montana parallel, it's not there. No. The 49ers didn't say, hey, we've got a really good second quarterback, let's trade him. You don't trade Steve. We trade you. So if they really believed that he was the man, it's kind of curious how they would do that. I mean, that's just something to float out there, but I think it's real.
Yeah, and I think it's real as well, because it wasn't the thing that Bill Belichick traded Jimmy Garoppolo because Robert Kraft didn't want there to be a fake quarterback controversy while Brady was still there. Belichick didn't want to make the move. And it was, if I remember correctly, he kind of begrudgingly traded him. And the reason he picked the 49ers is because he had the respect for Kyle Shanahan and all. So if that is to believe that's the reason Belichick traded Garoppolo, then yeah, it would make all the sense in the world. He's still interested in bringing him back. The best way, if you really want to think about it, because I just watched Ted Lasso and it's a show about soccer and everybody should watch it, is think about it as a loan, right? Like, Belichick trading Garoppolo to the Niners so he gets that NFL experience, just to pull him back to be like, hey, you got your NFL experience. I didn't have to do all that work. So, think of it like that. Like, Belichick definitely probably does want him back, because he never wanted to trade him in the first place. He only traded him in the first place because Robert Kraft is the owner and Belichick is, that coach where he's like, listen, I don't agree with you, but if you think this is where you want to go with this franchise, then this is where we're going to go with it. Like, Belichick's not the guy who's going to cause issues like that. So yeah, I think that the Patriots are genuinely interested in bringing back Garoppolo. That's
exactly what happened. He went in there and said, we need to trade Brady. He was like, no, you don't trade Brady. You trade Jimmy. And he's like, all right. He was like, now watch. He was like, I'm just going to, and you're right. So that part of the puzzle is there too, as well too. Let's see. Question from Gennaro. You want to read this one?
Yeah, real quick though, Adam Schefter just tweeted too, something I kind of touched on. One league source on Dak Prescott deal, quote, "You know what this is? This is Jerry Jones tipping off the extraordinary TV deal that is coming." So like kind of as we've been saying for weeks, just because the cap number's low this year doesn't mean it's going to not shoot up in a couple years. So something to touch on. Is Alex Smith to the Jaguars an obvious move? Question from Gennaro. I think so. Like I don't see any team really pounding down the door for Alex Smith to be their starter in week one. All the ties are there, right? Alex Smith has shown he can be a guy who brings up quarterbacks, right? He's a great mind to have in the locker room with a rookie quarterback because the Jaguars are going to have Trevor Lawrence. It makes sense. It also makes sense because Jason, do you remember who his head coach was at the University of Utah? Urban Meyer. So, yeah, all the ties are there. I think Alex Smith at the Jaguars is a very obvious move. Listen, Alex Smith isn't signing a contract. If you're asking in the context of if the 49ers should consider him, we said it last week. If Alex Smith ever signs a contract with the 49ers, it is a one-day deal to retire with the 49ers, but I don't think that's even going to happen. So, yes, I think Alex Smith at the Jaguars is the most obvious move.
Counterpoint. Here's another obvious move. So Alex Smith, while it sounds good, right? You want him to mentor somebody. Alex Smith has 1 year left.
Yeah.
Why on earth would I try to just take a clipboard and just sit there behind somebody when my leg is literally on its last leg? Here's your team where he'll compete for a job. He knows the system. They run things that are very conducive to what he does, and he's been in the system. Chicago, Matt Nagy, Kansas City, the way they run that offense, Mitchell Trubisky when he was there, short throws, a lot of running, no turnovers. If I'm Alex Smith, I'm not taking a clipboard and sitting behind anybody. My leg, this is the last thing. I hate to say this, but you need to squeeze the toothpaste out and squeeze whatever you can out of this leg and try one more time because he couldn't even finish the year. So for me, if he wants to, part with his ego and say, you know what, I'll take a backup job, that's fine. I don't think he wants to go out like that, man, and I don't think he should. I think he should go to Chicago, try to compete for a job there, and maybe win the job, especially because he knows the guy, and Matt Nagy's super comfortable with him.
Can I counterpoint your counterpoint?
For sure.
Is in 2021 Alex Smith an upgrade on either Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles?
No, but they probably won't either be there. Neither of them.
Neither of them will be there, but kind of like the 49. I think Russell Wilson's the Bears quarterback week one.
And maybe then Alex Smith is the backup there. I don't know.
Maybe. And I don't see the Bears making a move for a quarterback until that's settled. And at that point, I think it'll kind of be like the 49ers is if the Bears swing and miss on every option, I think they're fine with having either Foles or Trubisky there. I just think that's what it is. I do think Jacksonville is an obvious choice, but you make a good point with that. Like the fit's there. I don't know if that's the Bears are so bad with quarterbacks. And I haven't even thought about it like that. So that's a good point, and I appreciate your counterpoint, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate your discussion as well, as I always do.
I think Vince has a pretty good question here.
Which one?
Would you guys have any interest in Gilmore coming back in the Jimmy deal, or would you rather have a higher draft pick? Define higher draft pick, because the 49ers probably aren't going to get anything higher than a 3. Because I don't see Bill Belichick trading a second. I don't see him being like, hey, we're just going to refund your trade. I think he's going to try and say, hey, at least we got a little bit of value out of it because we got a second round pick. We gave up a third round pick. Now, in terms of Gilmore, ask me after we find out what happens with Jason Verrett. Ask me what happens after we find out with K'Wan Williams. Because if the 49ers somehow bring back Verrett and K'Wan Williams, I don't think they really need a cornerback because they'll have Mosley, Verrett, and K'Wan, which is the scenario that Jason and I have talked about multiple times during the season. But if Verrett leaves, sure, why not? Why not take a chance on Gilmore? It's a body. Because at that point, if Verrett leaves, like, you're going to need warm bodies at some point to play defensive back, and Gilmore would be an option. Now, does Belichick float Stephon Gilmore out there? Maybe, maybe not. There's been rumors that they've been trying to trade him for a year now. But yes, I'll just say yes, just to answer the question. Yeah, I would have interest in Gilmore, but if Verrett and K'Wan come back, then less interest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, with Gilmore, it's less about the play tapered off, but he's 31, right? And then again, cornerbacks like that, when I talk about AJ Boye, when I talk about bringing guys in, it's always under the impression that the pass rush is going to be great again, or better, at least than it was last year. We can't have Kerry Hyder leading this team in sacks next year. It's not going to be a good thing. I promise you. And I love Kerry Hyder, but it can't be that. The pressure was bad. So cornerbacks are immediately going to be better when people are in the backfield getting there. So again, having Gilmore there, aka Ty Dolla $ign, because have you ever seen Ty Dolla $ign and Stephon Gilmore in the same room? I haven't. But yes, I would be fine with it. It's just the money part and the age. What do you do now? Do you extend him because he's 30, 31, around there? That's the issue. But in terms of what are you getting for it, right? So are we sending Jimmy and a pick for Gilmore, or are we sending Jimmy and then getting Gilmore and a pick? Like what's the compensation? I think it boils down to that. I could see something like this being floated because it's not past me to think that Bill would move on from Gilmore to get from out under his cap number.
Yeah, you just made all very good points. I don't think I could agree anymore. I think Gilmore also, like, if you really want to think about it deep, Gilmore could easily step in and be what Richard Sherman was, right? Like a player. Like I know Sherman kind of lost a step, and that's because of the Achilles and the calf. Like I'm in the camp of I don't think Sherman's 100% done. I think he still has shown promise for whatever promise can be.
He's going to be fine next year.
I think he'll be fine next year. So I could see him easily stepping in and being – a Richard Sherman role. So yeah, I think Gilmore is an option for the 49ers. Do I think he'll be a 49er? Don't think so. Khalil Young, Collie. We went over this, man. It's the great Collie. Collie Young, are things really that bad between Russ and Seattle? Please do tell if you guys have any more info. I don't have any more info. I'm not even going to pretend like I know anybody. I know Jason. He's cool. So
you know nobody then.
I do think that it's really bad because Russell Wilson's not a type to air this stuff out. Like how many times do you hear from Russell Wilson other than when he makes Mr. Unlimited video? He's a very quiet guy, and for things that get this loud, like the strangest thing to me about this whole thing is, listen, I don't want to be traded, Pete Carroll, but if I was getting traded, like here's the 4 teams I want to be traded to. I feel like that's
your tip. That tip to hand.
Such a weird thing to do. Like Jason, I don't want to leave this podcast, right. But if I do, like I want to go be on, 4th and goal. That's where I want to go. But I don't want to leave yet. I don't want to leave.
Fine. So it's like this. Let's even break it down simpler, right? Yeah. Honey, I love you. I want to be with you. But if Karen down the street pulls up, Susan across town is available. Yeah. Janie 2 towns over is available, or maybe Shawnee over in a few other towns comes available. Then I don't know. I'm probably out. That's exactly what that sounds like.
It's just such a weird thing coming from Russell Wilson because, like as I said, he like if you want to give him credit for anything as a 49er fan, because we're 49er fans, we don't want to give Seahawks credit for anything because that's what we're told to do, I guess. Russell Wilson deserves credit for just keeping things under wrap. Like, how often do you hear things like this from him? Him being unhappy literally first came out like 2 weeks ago when all these rumors started. Like that to Jordan Elliott, my Seahawks will not be trading Russell Wilson. I got that
as a lifelong 12, he will turn in his season tickets.
I don't know if necessarily he gets traded, but I think things are pretty bad between the two. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I don't think the Seahawks would necessarily be wrong to trade him either.
No, I mean, if they were smart, they could get those 1st-round picks back from the Jets.
Yeah.
Hey, here's Russell Wilson. You mind giving us those picks back for Jamal Adams?
I forget the list. I know we could cross the cow, but was it the Bears, Raiders, and Jets? Was that the 3?
Bears, Raiders, Cowboys.
Was the Jets the 4th? I don't think the Jets.
I don't think they were.
Was it the Dolphins?
I can't remember. It was somebody weird.
Russell Wilson
the Saints.
Trade lid.
The Saints.
Yes, it was. I remember because I hated that because why would you trade for Russell Wilson when you have Jameis Winston on
you? You have Jameis Winston, right. My thing is this too, is how much pressure is Seattle putting on him, like seeing him get hit and everything. But it's like, man, if you're Seattle, don't trade the player, fire the coach. Come on, fire the coach. I don't get this part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 out of 10 times I would rather get rid of Pete Carroll than Russell Wilson. Like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But as I said, like I think things are that bad. I think things are absolutely that bad between the Seahawks.
We'll take one more probably, and then we can go right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying this. Josh Eccles asked thoughts on adding someone like Todd Gurley.
Jordan just got sick. If Jordan's in here, he's sick right now at this idea.
And I wrote an article on this. Hopefully, it's coming out in a couple days. I think the likeliest option, because Todd Gurley would likely be brought in as the third running back. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan likes to have running back depth. I think the likeliest option is JaMychal Hasty. But if the 49ers are looking at free agency for a third running back, I think Matt Breida would be the best option just because of the familiarity with the system. Todd Gurley, I like him. The idea of Todd Gurley being in an offense with Kyle Shanahan is enticing. But I think Matt Breida would be the better option if we're addressing it via free agency, strictly because he's been here before. Gurley he's shown signs of wear that you don't want to see. He's still like 26, I think 27.
I know, it's so crazy. We're talking about him like he's 50.
And that's the thing that scares me is like for every Frank Gore, there's a Todd Gurley who just gets burnt out really, really early. And it's unfortunate of what the position is at this point is guys are less and less likely to have long careers. Yeah. That's what makes Frank Gore so amazing. Right. And yeah, I think Todd Gurley would be an interesting ad, but I would feel more comfortable with a Matt Breida.
Think about it like this too. It's weird because I see people all the time that are like, oh, well, they don't draft running backs or they don't pay running backs. Well, Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman have entered the chat. So the 49ers have shown willingness to bring in people in free agency. I will go the diplomatic route, and I'm trying to think about this in the correct way of roster construction. You probably bring somebody in with a low draft pick or an undrafted free agent. Mm-hmm. Puka Williams has been floated out there now. It's really gaining steam from Kansas. He might not be somebody that you have to spend too much capital on. I suspect that the 49ers will bring in another running back. I just don't know if they'll hitch their wagon to Todd Gurley, and that would bother me too. He would literally have to come here for no money. Like I'm talking about you only get paid if you play and you gain yards and score touchdowns. If you don't do anything, you don't get anything. And that's what I would want to avoid with Todd Gurley.
Yeah. And my thing is at what point, because when I think about the running back position, if you're signing a guy, it's going to be in the rotation with Wilson and Mostert. And then we start talking about guys like Puka and who's the one you like? The North Carolina. Is he North Carolina?
Michael Carter's not going to be there. Oh my God, Michael Carter's a dream fit.
You're right. Excuse me. Yeah, Michael Carter's probably not the best option. But at what point do you get in there? Because the Niners aren't going to spend a top pick on a running back. They don't need to do that. So at what point in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round do you just say, well, we have JaMychal Hasty. Why do we need to waste a draft pick on one of these guys? And maybe you go the undrafted free agent route to have him as the 4th guy where Hasty's going to step in and be the 3rd guy. So I think the running back is a very interesting conversation. And I think I mentioned it in the article, like if you don't want to think about something serious, like any of those serious positions the Niners need to address, like running back isn't a need, but it's kind of a fun position to have hypotheticals about because it's not stressful because the 49ers have the position pretty well figured out. I don't see them going into free agency at this point. And Shanahan's been bitten too many times by that. And I don't think they're going to, unless it's Matt Breida, because he knows what he can get out of Breida.
Yeah.
And even then it would have to be a small contract. It can't be anything crazy.
Right. And when Breida shows up, does he go right back in the doghouse or is it a clean slate? Or, like you got to start thinking about that too, man. He really fell out of favor really fast, man. And that's the thing. It's like, it's no problem with having 4 and 5 backs on the team. You need to. If anything that we learned this year is that you need to have them on practice squads. You need to make sure that you have them. So it all depends on their confidence level. I know that they love JaMychal Hasty, right? They don't like people talking about him too much. So, JaMychal Hasty is somebody that they really like. But, after what they saw, are they as confident? It's going to be interesting to see. I suspect they'll bring somebody in. I just don't think it'll be a Todd Gurley or it'll be anybody for big money.
No, not at all. Like running back. Listen, we're getting to a point, and Jordan's gonna love me saying this.
Say it.
We're getting to a point where just please stop paying running backs. Like Kyle Shanahan. Listen, the two running backs that are gonna be the starters for the 49ers came to the 49ers, 1 as an undrafted free agent, and 2 as a special teams guy. And Kyle Shanahan has turned them both into legitimate running backs. Like that's what it is with Shanahan. So like Shanahan's probably learned that, like, why do I need to pay money when I could just get these guys via undrafted free agency and all that. And I see why you're laughing, Jordan.
No, you know why I'm laughing.
Jordan, we got to get a real running back like Chris Carson. What about Marshawn Lynch? What about Travis Homer?
Oh my God. All right. Well, that's the sprint right.
Michael Robinson's probably available. He's a 49er legend. Let's bring him in too.
Oh my God, man. Goodness gracious. Well, so that's a good way to end it.
That's going to be it for this week's episode. We're not sure what the plan is yet for Friday. The most likely scenario is a pre-recorded episode. The scenario I want to avoid is not having an episode because I am out of town this weekend. We're going to try and get something for you. And of course, honestly, with my luck, Jason, everything's going to happen this weekend and I'm not going to be able to be available to record. So I'm giving you the keys of this card. If you need to do a solo podcast, like, you do a solo podcast.
I will not. It'll be time to test out, possible backups. So you need to upgrade your co-host is only as good as your backup. So Jordan Elliott, come on down, buddy.
Jordan, we got plenty of choices to replace me. And next thing I'm going to know is I'm going to be a free agent. I've been cut for contract reasons.
It's a business, Andrew. Don't take it personally.
Listen, hey man, listen. If you're trying, I don't want to leave, but if you're trying to replace me, I have a list already. I'll text you the list. I got you.
Perfect. That's how we work. We just gotta get on eye to eye on this.
But it's not that serious. No. Perfect, guys. Listen, we appreciate every one of you. We apologize that we haven't taken as many questions as we usually do. We've kind of wanted to avoid everything because, as I said, like, everything's speculation, but we're getting to a point where speculation is going to turn into reality. So we're more and more comfortable talking about it. We didn't want to spend time talking about it if we didn't have to, but it's time. Everything's going to start happening soon. We're going to have all our answers here shortly enough because the draft is almost a month away. And so we're definitely going to get back to taking questions from you guys. We apologize. We haven't been doing that as much lately. We've just kind of wanted to escape the reality of how stressful the 49ers are. So, as always, we appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back hopefully this week. The second we make a decision, as I said, we're going to let you guys know via Twitter. Jason, do you have any last thoughts you want to say before we get out of here today?
Nope. Enjoy Seattle, buddy. I'll probably talk to you before then, and enjoy hanging out with Akash. I'm not jealous at all.
Yeah. Well, I got to get that set up. We got to find out. So yeah, hopefully Seattle's fun. I'm definitely going to try and put some sort of jinx on Lumen's stadium field.
Go tell the dad joke in front of it.
Go tell the dad. I'm just gonna go to Kinko's this week and just get a giant poster of Greenlaw stopping Hollister at the 1 yard and just stand there holding it up.
You beautiful, magnificent human. I would pay for that.
The option.
I would pay for that.
At some point before the weekends, I got to go to Target and I got to eat some cinnamon roll with chili. That'll happen.
Didn't think you forgot about that.
At some point. So beautiful, Jason, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.